The church bells tolled, a hollow clang slicing through the crisp morning air. Emily stood frozen in her ivory gown, the lace itching against her clammy skin. Her heart pounded like a trapped bird, each beat echoing the truth she couldn't escape. Claire wasn't coming. The pews behind her were filled with whispers, sharp and pitying, like knives slipping between her ribs. She clutched the bouquet of wilting peonies, their sweet decay filling her lungs. 28. A schoolteacher in this sleepy Oregon town. Emily had poured every ounce of her soul into planning this day, and now it was crumbling. Her best friend Mia hovered nearby, her voice a soft murmur. Let's go. You don't need to stand here. But Emily's feet were cemented to the altar, her eyes fixed on the empty aisle where Claire was supposed to appear. The organist had stopped playing 10 minutes ago, leaving only the creak of wooden pews and the stifled coughs of guests. She could smell the wax from the unlit candles, their wicks mocking her with their unused promise. Then a low rumble cut through the silence, a car engine gravel crunching under tires. Emily's head snapped up. A sleek black sedan pulled into the church lot, and out stepped a woman in a driver's uniform, her dark hair cropped short, her stride confident yet unhurried. She wasn't Claire. She was a stranger, yet her presence hit Emily like a gust of wind, stirring something deep and unfamiliar. "Miss Emily Harper," the woman called, her voice smooth, carrying a faint southern drawl. She held a small envelope, her hazel eyes scanning the crowd before locking onto Emily's. "I've got something for you." Emily's throat tightened. She stepped forward, the train of her dress dragging like a chain. The woman, Sam, her name tag read, handed her the note. Emily's fingers trembled as she tore it open. Claire's handwriting stared back, cold and final. "I can't do this. I'm sorry. You deserve better." The world tilted. Emily's knees buckled, but Sam's hand caught her elbow, steady and warm. "Breathe," Sam said softly, her voice a lifeline. "You're gonna be okay." Sam drove her away from the church, the sedan's leather seats cool against Emily's skin. The town blurred past red brick storefronts, oak trees heavy with summer green, the distant hum of a lawnmower. Emily stared out the window, the note crumpled in her fist. "Why didn't she just tell me?" she whispered, her voice cracking like dry wood. Sam glanced over, her hand steady on the wheel. "Some people run from what scares them most. Doesn't make it your fault." Her tone was gentle but firm, like she'd seen this kind of pain before. Emily noticed the faint scent of cedar in the car, mingling with the leather, a grounding, earthy smell that pulled her back from the edge. "Where are we going?" Emily asked, her voice small. "Wherever you want," Sam replied. "I'm just the driver." But there was a spark in her eyes, a quiet challenge that made Emily's chest tighten in a way she didn't expect. They ended up at a diner on the edge of town, the kind with sticky vinyl booths and coffee that burned your tongue. Sam sat across from her, sipping black coffee, her uniform crisp despite the long morning. Emily picked at a plate of pancakes, the syrup too sweet, the fork heavy in her hand. "I don't even know why I'm here," she admitted, her eyes tracing the grain of the wooden table. "Because you're stronger than you think," Sam said, leaning forward. Her gaze was unwavering, like she could see straight through Emily's walls. "You walked out of that church with your head up. That's not nothing." Emily laughed, a brittle sound. "I feel like I'm falling apart." "Then let yourself fall," Sam said. "Just don't stay down." That night Emily couldn't sleep. The motel room smelled of stale cigarettes and cheap air freshener, the neon sign outside buzzing faintly. She replayed Claire's note in her mind, each word a fresh cut. But Sam's voice kept creeping in, too low, steady, like a heartbeat she could lean into. She didn't know why Sam had stayed, why she'd driven her around all day, from the diner to the lake, listening to Emily's rambled stories about teaching third graders and her dreams of a quiet life with Claire. Sam hadn't judged, hadn't pushed. She'd just been there. By morning, Emily made a decision. She wasn't going back to her apartment, not yet. The thought of facing Claire's empty side of the closet was too much. Instead, she called Sam. "Can you drive me somewhere?" Anywhere. Sam's voice crackled through the phone, warm and teasing. You're racking up quite the tab, Miss Harper. Put it on my card, Emily shot back, surprising herself with the lightness in her voice. They hit the road, the sedan slicing through the coastal highway. The ocean stretched out to their left, waves crashing against jagged cliffs, the air sharp with salt. Sam played an old rock playlist, the guitar riffs filling the silence between them. Emily found herself really talking about her childhood, her fears, the way she'd always felt like she was chasing something she couldn't name. Sam listened, her hands loose on the wheel, her occasional glances carrying a weight Emily couldn't quite decipher. You ever been in love? Emily asked, the question slipping out before she could stop it. Sam's jaw tightened just for a second. Once, she said, her voice quieter now. Didn't end well. But it taught me something. What's that? Sam's eyes flicked to her, a half-smile tugging at her lips. You don't find love by chasing it. You build it. Emily's breath caught. The words landed like a stone in still water, rippling through her. She didn't know what to say, so she just watched the road ahead, the horizon glowing with the promise of something new. The highway stretched endless, a ribbon of asphalt cutting through pine forests and sleepy coastal towns. Emily's fingers traced the window's edge, cool glass grounding her as the world blurred by. Sam drove with an easy confidence, one hand on the wheel, the other resting on the gearshift. The faint scent of cedar still lingered in the car, mixing with the salty breeze from the open window. Emily stole glances at Sam, her sharp jawline, the way her hazel eyes flicked to the rearview mirror with a quiet intensity. There was something about her, something that felt like a secret waiting to be told. You don't have to do this, you know, Emily said, breaking the comfortable silence. Drive me around like I'm some lost puppy. Sam chuckled, low and warm, the sound like gravel under boots. Maybe I like lost puppies. Her eyes crinkled at the corners, and Emily felt a flutter in her chest, unfamiliar but not unwelcome. It scared her how easy it was to sit here with Sam, how the ache of Claire's betrayal seemed to dull in her presence. They stopped at a cliffside lookout, the Pacific Ocean sprawling below like a restless beast. The wind whipped Emily's hair, carrying the sharp tang of seaweed and the distant cry of gulls. Sam leaned against the sedan's hood, her uniform jacket unbuttoned, revealing a plain white tee that hugged her frame. You ever just stand somewhere like this and feel small? Sam asked, her voice almost lost in the wind. Emily nodded, wrapping her arms around herself. Like the world's so big and you're just a speck. She paused, her throat tight. I thought Claire and I were bigger than that. Like we were something. Sam turned to her, her gaze soft but piercing. You are something, Emily. Don't let her take that from you. Her words carried a weight, like she'd carried her own scars and come out stronger. Emily wanted to ask about them, about the love Sam had mentioned, but the moment felt too fragile, like a soap bubble waiting to pop. That night they checked into a small inn, the kind with creaky floors and faded floral wallpaper. The clerk, an older woman with a smoker's rasp, handed them a single key. Only one room left, she said, eyeing them with a knowing smirk. Emily's cheeks burned, but Sam just grinned, tossing the key in her hand. We'll make it work. The room was cramped, with a single queen bed and a window overlooking the ocean. The waves crashed outside, a rhythmic pulse that filled the silence. Emily sat on the bed's edge, her hands twisting in her lap. I can take the floor, she offered, her voice small. Don't be ridiculous, Sam said, kicking off her boots. We're adults. We can share a bed without making it weird. But her tone held a playful edge, and Emily caught the spark in her eyes, like she was testing the waters. They lay side by side, the mattress dipping slightly under their weight. The room smelled faintly of lavender from the inn's cheap soap, and the sheets were cool against Emily's skin. She stared at the ceiling, listening to Sam's steady breathing. Why are you doing this? She whispered. You don't even know me. Sam turned her head, her face half lit by the moonlight streaming through the window. Maybe I see something in you worth knowing. Her voice was soft, but it hit Emily like a thunderclap, stirring something deep and dangerous. She wanted to reach out to bridge the inches between them, but fear held her back. Instead, she closed her eyes, letting Sam's words settle into her bones. The next morning they drove to a farmer's market in a nearby town. The air buzzed with life, vendors shouting about fresh peaches, the sizzle of bacon from a food truck, the laughter of kids chasing each other through the stalls. Emily felt lighter, like the weight of the church was finally starting to lift. Sam bought her a coffee, their fingers brushing as she handed it over. The touch lingered electric and Emily's pulse quickened. "You're good at this," Emily said, sipping the coffee, its bitterness grounding her. "Making people feel okay." Sam shrugged, her lips curving into a half-smile. "Comes with the job. You meet all kinds of people driving. Everyone's got a story. What's yours?" Emily asked, her voice quieter now. She leaned against a wooden stall, the scent of fresh lavender filling the air. Sam's smile faded just for a moment. "Not much to tell. Grew up in Georgia, left home young. Been on the road ever since." But there was a shadow in her eyes, a story she wasn't ready to share. Emily didn't push, but she felt the pull of it like a current tugging her closer. They spent the day wandering, tasting homemade jams and laughing at a street performer's terrible juggling. By dusk they sat on a bench overlooking the ocean, the sky bruised with purples and oranges. Emily's shoulder brushed Sam's, and neither pulled away. "I don't know what I'm doing," Emily admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I thought I had it all figured out with Claire." Sam's hand found hers, warm and steady. "You don't have to figure it all out today," she said. "Just take it 1 mile at a time." Emily's throat tightened, tears prickling her eyes. She squeezed Sam's hand, feeling the calluses on her fingers, the strength in her grip. For the first time since the church, she felt like she could breathe. The road wound through redwood forests, the trees towering like silent giants, their shadows dappling the sedan's hood. Emily watched the world slide by, the hum of the engine a steady pulse beneath her thoughts. Sam's playlist filled the car. Gravelly vocals and soft acoustic strums, the kind of music that felt like a confession. The air carried the sharp scent of pine and something else, something warm and faintly spicy, like Sam's cologne. Emily's fingers fidgeted with the hem of her sweater, her mind a tangle of gratitude and something deeper, something she wasn't ready to name. "You're quiet today," Sam said, her eyes flicking from the road to Emily. Her voice was light, but there was a question in it, soft and probing. Emily sighed, the sound heavy in her chest. "Just thinking. About Claire. About everything." She paused, her gaze drifting to the dashboard, where a small worn photo was tucked into the visor. A younger Sam, maybe mid-20s, grinned beside a woman with sharp cheekbones and a guarded smile. "Who's that?" Emily asked, nodding toward the photo. Sam's hands tightened on the wheel, just for a second. "Old friend," she said, her tone clipped. "Long time ago." But the way her jaw set told Emily it was more than that. She didn't press, though. Not yet. They stopped at a roadside diner, the kind with a flickering neon sign and waitresses who called you Han. The air inside was thick with grease and the clatter of plates. Emily slid into a booth, the vinyl creaking under her. Sam sat across, her posture relaxed but her eyes alert, like she was always scanning for something. Emily noticed the way Sam's fingers drummed lightly on the table, a restless rhythm that matched the faint buzz in her own chest. "You ever think about settling down?" Emily asked, stirring cream into her coffee. The spoon clinked against the mug, a small sound in the diner's hum. Sam leaned back, her lips quirking. "Tried it once. Didn't stick." She took a sip of her coffee, black and steaming. "The road's better. Keeps you honest." Emily frowned, her fingers tightening around her mug. "Honest about what?" "About who you are," Sam said, her gaze steady. "No one to hide from out here. Just you and the miles." Her words hung between them, heavy with meaning Emily couldn't quite grasp. She wanted to ask more. but the waitress arrived with their burgers, and the moment slipped away. That afternoon they hiked a trail through the redwoods, the air cool and damp, the ground soft with pine needles. Emily's sneakers crunched with each step, the sound blending with the distant call of a hawk. Sam walked ahead, her stride sure, her uniform swapped for jeans and a flannel shirt that made her look softer, more approachable. Emily's eyes lingered on the way the sunlight caught Sam's hair, turning the dark strands to burnished copper. "You're staring," Sam said without turning, her voice teasing. Emily's cheeks flushed. "I'm not," she lied, quickening her pace to catch up. They reached a clearing, a small meadow ringed by towering trees, the grass dusted with wildflowers. Emily stopped, her breath catching at the beauty of it. "This feels sacred," she whispered. Sam nodded, her eyes scanning the horizon. "Places like this remind you there's more to life than what hurts you." She sat on a fallen log, patting the space beside her. Emily joined her, their shoulders brushing. The air smelled of earth and sap, and for a moment, Emily felt like she could let go of the weight she'd been carrying. "Tell me something real," Emily said suddenly, her voice soft but urgent. "Something you don't tell anyone." Sam's breath hitched, barely audible. She looked down at her hands, her fingers tracing the grain of the log. "I built something once," she said finally. "A company. From nothing. Thought it would make me happy, but it just made me lonely." Her voice was raw, like she'd peeled back a layer of herself. Emily's heart stuttered. "A company? Like what kind?" Sam's lips twitched, a flicker of her usual confidence returning. "Tech apps mostly. You wouldn't know it." But there was a glint in her eyes, like she was holding back a bigger truth. Emily wanted to push, to ask why Sam was driving a sedan instead of running boardrooms, but something stopped her. Instead she reached out, her hand covering Sam's. "You're not lonely now," she said, her voice trembling with conviction. Sam's eyes met hers, and for a moment the world narrowed to just them, the meadow, the soft rustle of leaves, the warmth of their joined hands. Then Sam pulled back, standing abruptly. "We should keep moving," she said, her voice rough. But Emily saw the flush on her cheeks, the way her hands shook slightly as she adjusted her flannel. That night they shared another motel room, this one with 2 beds. Emily lay awake, listening to the hum of the air conditioner and the faint creak of Sam's bed as she shifted. The distance between them felt like a chasm, even though it was only a few feet. Emily's mind replayed Sam's words, her touch, the photo in the car. She wanted to know more, to understand the woman who'd stepped into her life when everything else had fallen apart. "Sam," she whispered into the dark. "Yeah." Sam's voice was soft, sleepy. "Thank you," Emily said, her throat tight, "for not letting me fall apart." There was a long pause, then the rustle of sheets. "You're stronger than you think, Emily," Sam said, her voice carrying a warmth that wrapped around Emily like a blanket. "Sleep. We've got more road tomorrow." Emily closed her eyes, a small smile tugging at her lips. For the first time in days she felt like she wasn't running from something but toward it. The morning sun spilled through the motel curtains, painting stripes of gold across the worn carpet. Emily woke to the sound of Sam humming softly, a low, soulful tune that mingled with the drip of the coffee maker. The room smelled of burnt toast and cheap shampoo, grounding Emily in a way that felt oddly comforting. She watched Sam pour 2 mugs of coffee, her movements precise, like she'd done this 1,000 times. Emily's chest tightened, not with pain but with something softer, something that scared her as much as it thrilled her. "You're up early," Emily said, sitting up and rubbing sleep from her eyes. Sam grinned, handing her a mug. "Road life. You get used to it." Her fingers brushed Emily's as she passed the coffee, and the touch sent a jolt through Emily's skin. She hid her flush behind a sip, the coffee's bitterness sharp on her tongue. They hit the road again, the sedan weaving through rolling hills dusted with wildflowers. The radio crackled with a country ballad, the singer's voice raw with longing. Emily felt it in her bones, the ache of wanting something you couldn't quite name. She glanced at Sam, whose eyes were fixed on the road, one hand tapping the wheel to the beat. "Where are we going today?" Emily asked, her voice lighter than she felt. Sam's lips curved. "Thought we'd hit San Francisco. Ever been?" Emily shook her head. "Always wanted to. Claire and I." She stopped, the name catching in her throat like a splinter. Sam's hand twitched on the gearshift, but she didn't say anything, just let the silence sit. Emily was grateful for it, for the way Sam seemed to know when to push and when to wait. The city rose around them by midday, all glass and steel glinting under a cloudless sky. The air smelled of salt and street food, the hum of traffic blending with the clang of cable cars. They parked near the waterfront, the Golden Gate Bridge looming in the distance, its red arches bold against the blue. Emily's breath caught, the sheer scale of it overwhelming. "It's bigger than I imagined," she said, shielding her eyes from the sun. Sam chuckled, leaning against a railing. "Everything's bigger in person. Makes you feel alive, doesn't it?" Her voice was warm, but there was an edge to it, like she was holding something back. Emily noticed the way Sam's eyes lingered on the horizon, like she was searching for something, or running from it. They walked along the pier, the boards creaking under their feet. Vendors shouted about fresh crab, and seagulls wheeled overhead, their cries sharp and wild. Emily bought a small keychain, a miniature Golden Gate Bridge, and tucked it into her pocket. It felt like a promise to herself, to keep moving forward no matter what. Sam watched her, her expression unreadable, but her eyes softened when Emily caught her gaze. "You're different here," Emily said, pausing by a bench. "More open." Sam raised an eyebrow, her lips quirking. "City air does that to me. Or maybe it's the company." She nudged Emily's shoulder, playful but deliberate, and Emily's heart stuttered. She wanted to lean into the touch, to let herself fall into whatever this was, but doubt gnawed at her. "What am I doing?" she thought. "Claire's barely gone and I'm what? Falling for a stranger?" That night, they ate at a small Italian place, the kind with checkered tablecloths and candles dripping wax. The air was thick with garlic and red wine, the clink of glasses a soft backdrop to their conversation. Sam told stories of her years on the road, hitchhiking through the South, sleeping under stars, meeting people who changed her in ways she couldn't explain. Emily hung on every word, her fork forgotten in her hand. "What about you?" Sam asked, leaning forward, her eyes glinting in the candlelight. "What's the Emily Harper story?" Emily laughed, a little bitter. "Not much to tell. Grew up in Oregon, became a teacher. Thought I'd marry Claire and live happily ever after. You know how that turned out." Her voice cracked and she looked down, tracing the rim of her wine glass. Sam reached across the table, her hand covering Emily's. "That's not your whole story," she said, her voice low and fierce. "You're more than what happened to you. I see it every time you smile, every time you laugh. You're still here, Emily. That's your story." Emily's eyes burned, tears threatening to spill. She turned her hand over, lacing her fingers with Sam's. The touch was warm, electric, and for a moment the restaurant faded away. The clatter of dishes, the hum of voices, all of it gone. It was just them, two women caught in a moment that felt like it could change everything. Later, they stood on a rooftop bar overlooking the city, the lights twinkling like stars below. The air was cool, carrying the faint scent of ocean and asphalt. Emily leaned against the railing, her shoulder brushing Sam's. "I don't know what I'm doing," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I know I don't want this to end." Sam turned to her, her face half lit by the city's glow. "Then don't let it," she said, her voice raw with something Emily couldn't name. She stepped closer, her breath warm against Emily's cheek. For a heartbeat, Emily thought Sam might kiss her, but she pulled back, her eyes stormy with conflict. "We should get some rest," Sam said, her voice rough. "Big day tomorrow." Emily nodded, her heart pounding. She didn't trust herself to speak, not when every fiber of her wanted to close the distance between them. As they walked back to the car, the city's pulse thrumming around them, Emily felt it, a spark, a possibility, a road she hadn't planned on taking. And for the first time she wasn't afraid to follow it. The San Francisco fog rolled in at dawn, wrapping the city in a soft gray blanket. Emily stood by the motel window, the glass cool against her fingertips, watching the world blur outside. The room smelled of damp air and the faint citrus of Sam's shampoo, lingering from her shower. Emily's heart was a tangle of nerves and hope, each beat echoing the moment on the rooftop. The almost kiss, the weight of Sam's gaze, the unspoken pull between them. She didn't know what it meant, but it felt like waking up after a long, restless sleep. Sam emerged from the bathroom, her hair damp, her flannel shirt untucked. "Ready to see the city?" she asked, her voice light but her eyes searching. Emily nodded, her throat tight. She wanted to say something, to ask what last night meant, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, she grabbed her jacket, the fabric soft against her skin, and followed Sam to the car. The sedan wound through the city's steep streets, the engine's hum a steady companion. They stopped at a coffee shop, the kind with mismatched chairs and baristas shouting orders over the hiss of espresso machines. The air was thick with the scent of roasted beans and cinnamon. Sam ordered a black coffee, Emily a latte, and they sat by a window, watching pedestrians hurry through the mist. Emily's fingers traced the rim of her mug, the ceramic warm against her skin. "You ever think about staying in one place?" she asked, her voice soft. Sam's eyes flickered like she was weighing her answer. "Sometimes," she admitted, leaning back in her chair. "But the road's been home for so long, I don't know if I'd fit anywhere else." There was a wistfulness in her voice, a crack in her usual confidence that made Emily's chest ache. They spent the day exploring Chinatown's bustling markets, the narrow alleys lined with red lanterns, the air sharp with ginger and fried dough. Sam bought Emily a small jade pendant, her fingers brushing Emily's as she handed it over. "For luck," she said, her smile soft but guarded. Emily slipped it into her pocket, next to the Golden Gate keychain, her heart stuttering at the gesture. By afternoon they reached the Castro, the rainbow flags fluttering in the breeze. The neighborhood thrummed with life. Music spilling from bars, couples walking hand in hand, the air alive with laughter and the clink of beer bottles. Emily felt a pang, remembering her dreams of a life with Claire. But it was softer now, less like a wound and more like a bruise. She glanced at Sam, who was watching a street performer strum a guitar, her expression unreadable. "You okay?" Sam asked, catching her gaze. Emily nodded, her lips curving into a small smile. "Yeah, just feels good to be here. With you." The words slipped out, raw and honest, and Sam's eyes softened, her hand brushing Emily's arm. "Come on," Sam said, her voice warm. "Let's keep moving." They ended up at a small bookstore, its shelves crammed with novels and poetry. The air smelled of old paper and dust, a comforting weight that settled Emily's nerves. She wandered the aisles, her fingers trailing over book spines, while Sam flipped through a worn copy of Whitman. "You read poetry?" Emily asked, surprised. Sam grinned, a little sheepish. "Used to. Helped me make sense of things when life got messy." She read a line aloud, her voice low and steady. "We too, how long we were fooled." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning, and Emily felt her breath catch. She wanted to ask what Sam was trying to say, but the moment felt too fragile, like a thread stretched taut. That night they sat on a hill overlooking the city, the lights twinkling below like a sea of stars. The grass was cool beneath them, the air sharp with the scent of eucalyptus. Emily's shoulder pressed against Sam's, the warmth of her body a quiet anchor. "I don't know how to do this," Emily said, her voice trembling. "This thing between us. It's too soon, isn't it?" Sam turned to her, her eyes dark and intense. "There's no rulebook for this, Emily. You feel what you feel." Her hand found Emily's, their fingers lacing together. The touch was electric, grounding, and Emily felt tears prick her eyes, not from pain, but from the overwhelming rush of possibility. "I'm scared," Emily whispered, her voice barely audible over the distant hum of the city. Sam's thumb brushed over her knuckles, steady and warm. Me too, she admitted, her voice raw. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe alone. Emily's heart pounded, the words sinking into her like rain into parched earth. She leaned closer, her breath mingling with Sam's, and this time neither pulled away. Their lips met, soft and tentative at first, then deeper, a quiet explosion of warmth and need. The kiss tasted of coffee and salt, the city's pulse fading into the background. It was just them, two women finding each other in the wreckage of what came before. When they pulled apart, Emily's cheeks were wet with tears, but she was smiling. Sam brushed a strand of hair from her face, her touch gentle but sure. 1 mile at a time, she whispered, echoing her words from days ago. Emily nodded, her hand tightening around Sam's. For the first time, the road ahead didn't feel like an escape. It felt like a beginning. The morning after the kiss, the air felt different, charged, like the moment before a storm. Emily woke to the sound of Sam packing, the soft rustle of clothes and the zip of a duffel bag. The motel room smelled of coffee and the faint tang of ocean air seeping through the cracked window. Emily's heart raced, the memory of Sam's lips still warm on hers, but doubt crept in like a shadow. What now? She thought, pulling the blanket tighter around her shoulders. Sam glanced over, her hazel eyes catching the light. Morning, she said, her voice soft but guarded, like she was bracing for something. Sleep okay? Emily nodded, her throat tight. Yeah, you. She wanted to say more, to ask what the kiss meant, but the words felt too big, too fragile. Instead, she watched Sam sling the duffel over her shoulder, her movements sharp and efficient. They hit the road, the sedan cutting through the fog as they left San Francisco behind. The radio played low, a soft jazz tune that filled the silence but didn't bridge it. Emily's fingers fidgeted with the jade pendant in her pocket, its smooth surface grounding her. Where are we going? She asked, her voice quieter than she meant. Sam's hands tightened on the wheel. Got a job in Seattle. Thought you might want to come along. Her tone was casual, but her eyes flicked to Emily, searching. Unless you're ready to head back. Emily's chest tightened. Back to Oregon, to her empty apartment, to the life Claire had shattered. The thought made her stomach churn. No, she said too quickly. I'm not ready. She paused, her voice softening. I want to stay with you. Sam's lips twitched, a flicker of relief in her eyes. Good, she said, her voice low. I'd miss you if you left. The words landed like a spark, igniting something warm in Emily's chest. She reached over, her hand resting on Sam's arm. The touch was brief, but it said everything she couldn't yet put into words. The drive to Seattle was long, the highway stretching through misty forests and small towns. The air smelled of rain and pine, the windshield streaked with drizzle. They stopped at a gas station, the neon sign buzzing faintly, its glow cutting through the gray. Emily leaned against the car while Sam filled the tank, the click of the pump a steady rhythm. She watched Sam, her flannel shirt damp from the mist, her hair falling into her eyes. There was a quiet strength to her, a steadiness that made Emily feel safe in a way she hadn't in years. You're staring again, Sam said, smirking as she hung up the nozzle. Emily blushed but didn't look away. Maybe I like what I see. The words were bold, braver than she felt, and Sam's smirk softened into something warmer. Something real. They grabbed sandwiches from the gas station's deli. The bread slightly stale but the turkey passable. Sitting on the sedan's hood, they ate in companionable silence, the rain tapping lightly on their jackets. Emily's shoulder brushed Sam's and neither moved away. You ever think about what comes next? Emily asked, her voice barely above the patter of rain. Sam chewed slowly, her eyes on the horizon. All the time, she said. But I'm not big on planning. Life's got a way of surprising you. She glanced at Emily, her gaze lingering. Like you. Emily's heart skipped. She wanted to lean in to kiss Sam again. But the moment was interrupted by her phone buzzing. A text from Mia. You okay? Where are you? Emily's fingers hesitated over the screen. She typed a quick reply, "I'm fine. With a friend. Need time. And turned off the phone, shoving it into her pocket. Sam raised an eyebrow but didn't ask. Instead, she slid off the hood, brushing crumbs from her jeans. Ready to keep going? Emily nodded, her heart lighter than it had been in days. Yeah, let's go. Seattle greeted them with a drizzle that turned to a downpour. They checked into a hotel downtown, the lobby smelling of polished wood and fresh flowers. The clerk handed them 2 keys this time, but Sam hesitated, her eyes meeting Emily's. "You want your own room?" she asked, her voice low. Emily's breath caught. She shook her head, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. "No, I want to stay with you." Sam's smile was small but bright, like a crack of sunlight through clouds. They shared a room, the city's lights glinting through the window, the rain a soft drumbeat outside. Emily sat on the bed, her hands twisting in her lap, the weight of the moment pressing down on her. "Sam," she said, her voice trembling. "What are we doing?" Sam sat beside her, close enough that Emily could feel the warmth of her body. "What do you want this to be?" she asked, her voice raw, vulnerable in a way Emily hadn't heard before. Emily's eyes burned with tears. "I don't know," she admitted. "But I know I feel something. For you. And it scares me." Sam's hand found hers, their fingers lacing together. "It scares me too," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "But I'm not running from it. Not this time." They kissed again, slower this time, the rain's rhythm echoing their pulse. Emily's hands found Sam's face, her fingers tracing the sharp line of her jaw. The world fell away, the hotel, the city, the pain of the past. It was just them building something new, something worth fighting for. The Seattle rain painted the hotel windows in streaks, the city's glow a soft blur outside. Emily lay awake, Sam's arm draped across her waist, her breathing slow and steady in sleep. The room smelled of rain-soaked wool and the faint cedar of Sam's cologne, a scent that had become Emily's anchor. Her heart thrummed, not with fear now, but with a quiet certainty. The kiss they'd shared hours ago lingered like a melody, its warmth still humming in her veins. But beneath it a question gnawed. Who is Sam, really? Morning brought a gray dawn, the rain replaced by a damp chill. They sat in a coffee shop, the air thick with espresso and the clatter of keyboards. Sam's phone buzzed constantly, her fingers flicking across the screen with a focus Emily hadn't seen before. "Work stuff?" Emily asked, sipping her latte, the foam clinging to her lips. Sam nodded, her eyes not leaving the screen. "Yeah, just tying up some loose ends." Her tone was casual, but there was a tension in her shoulders, a flicker of something guarded. Emily's gaze drifted to the phone, catching a glimpse of an email headers. Carter, CEO, before Sam locked the screen. "CEO?" Emily asked, half teasing, half curious. "You moonlighting as a big shot?" Sam's laugh was quick, almost too quick. "Just a nickname," she said, shoving the phone into her pocket. "Old job. Nothing exciting." But her eyes didn't meet Emily's, and the air between them shifted, like a door closing softly. They spent the day wandering Pike Place Market, the air alive with the tang of fish and the sweetness of fresh pastries. Vendors shouted, their voices mingling with the strum of a busker's guitar. Emily bought a small bouquet of daisies, their petals soft against her fingers, and tucked one behind Sam's ear. "Looks good on you," she said, her voice playful but her eyes searching. Sam's cheeks flushed, but she didn't pull away. "Your trouble, Harper," she said, her grin softening the words. They shared a paper bag of warm donuts, the sugar dusting their fingers, and for a moment, Emily forgot the questions tugging at her. She wanted to freeze this, Sam's laugh, the warmth of her hand, the way the world felt brighter with her in it. But the questions returned when Sam's phone rang, a sharp trill cutting through the market's hum. She stepped away, her voice low but urgent. "Yeah, I'll be there. Just give me a few days." Emily caught fragments, board meeting, acquisition, words that didn't fit the Sam she knew. the driver with a beat-up sedan and a playlist of old rock. When Sam returned, her smile was tight, her eyes distant. "Everything okay?" Emily asked, her voice soft. Sam nodded, but it was too quick, too practiced. "Just work. Nothing to worry about." She reached for Emily's hand, her touch warm but fleeting, like she was holding something back. That night they ate at a seafood shack, the air thick with salt and butter. The table was littered with crab shells, the clink of forks a soft counterpoint to the waves crashing outside. Emily watched Sam, her flannel sleeves rolled up, her hands deftly cracking a claw. "You're hiding something," Emily said, the words slipping out before she could stop them. Sam froze, her eyes meeting Emily's. "What makes you say that?" Emily leaned forward, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. "The phone calls. The emails. You're not just a driver, are you?" Sam's jaw tightened, her fingers still on the crab shell. For a moment Emily thought she'd shut down. But then Sam sighed, a sound heavy with resignation. "I didn't want to get into this yet," she said, her voice low. "But yeah, I'm not just a driver." Emily's heart pounded. "Then who are you?" Sam leaned back, her eyes searching Emily's face. "My name's Samantha Carter. I started a company, Carter Tech. Apps, software, that kind of thing. It got bigger than I expected. I drive to clear my head, to remember who I am outside the boardroom." Emily's breath caught. Carter Tech. She'd heard of it, a name splashed across tech blogs, a startup turned empire. "You're the CEO?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Sam nodded, her expression guarded. "Yeah, but I didn't want you to see me like that. Not yet. I wanted you to see me." Emily's mind reeled, the pieces falling into place. The confidence, the guarded moments, the photo in the car. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, hurt creeping into her voice. Sam's eyes softened, her hand reaching for Emily's. "Because I saw you, Emily. Standing in that church, broken but so damn strong. I didn't want you to look at me and see money or power. I wanted you to see me." Emily's throat tightened, tears prickling her eyes. She wanted to be angry, to feel betrayed. But all she felt was the warmth of Sam's hand, the honesty in her voice. "I do see you," she said, her voice trembling. "But I need to know all of you." Sam's smile was small, vulnerable. "Fair enough," she said. "I'll show you. But not tonight. Tonight it's just us." They walked back to the hotel, the rain a soft patter on their jackets, their hands brushing with every step. Emily didn't have all the answers, but she had Sam's hand in hers, and for now that was enough. The Seattle skyline glittered through the hotel window, a mosaic of light against the night. Emily sat on the bed, her knees pulled to her chest, the air heavy with the scent of rain and the faint cedar of Sam's cologne. Sam's revelation about Carter Tech still echoed in her mind, a truth that felt both thrilling and daunting. She watched Sam pace by the window, her silhouette sharp against the city's glow. Her phone silent for once. The room was quiet, save for the soft hum of the heater and the occasional creak of the floor. "I want to show you something," Sam said suddenly, her voice low but resolute. She pulled a laptop from her duffel, its sleek design a stark contrast to her worn flannel. "This is me. The part one don't usually share." Emily slid closer, her shoulder brushing Sam's as the screen lit up. Sam opened a folder, revealing a timeline of Carter Tech, screenshots of early apps, photos of a younger Sam in a cramped office, her grin fierce and determined. "I built this from nothing," Sam said, her voice tinged with pride but also something heavier like regret. "Late nights, bad coffee, a lot of mistakes. But it worked. Too well sometimes." Emily's eyes traced the screen, landing on a headline. "Carter Tech CEO steps back amid expansion rumors." "You stepped back?" she asked, her voice soft. Sam nodded, her jaw tight. "Got overwhelming. Everyone wanted a piece of me, investors, media, even my own team. I needed to breathe. So I started driving. Keeps me grounded." She paused, her eyes meeting Emily's. "Then I met you." Emily's heart stuttered, her hand finding Sam's. I'm glad you did, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The air between them crackled, heavy with unspoken promises. The next morning Sam drove them to Cartertech's headquarters, a sleek glass building that gleamed under the Seattle sun. The lobby smelled of polished stone and ambition, the air humming with the chatter of employees. Emily felt out of place in her sweater and jeans, but Sam's hand on her back was steady, guiding her through the chaos. This is home base, Sam said, her voice carrying a mix of pride and unease. Want a tour? Emily nodded, her eyes wide as they moved through open-plan offices, screens flashing with code, employees nodding respectfully at Sam. She wasn't just a driver. She was a force, a woman who'd built an empire from grit and vision. Yet, as they reached Sam's office, a corner suite with a view of the Puget Sound, Emily saw the weight on her shoulders, the stacks of papers, the blinking voicemail light, the world waiting for her to lead. You belong here, Emily said, her voice soft as she stood by the window, the water glinting below. Sam leaned against her desk, her arms crossed. Sometimes I'm not so sure. This place, it takes everything. I don't know if I've got anything left to give. Her voice cracked, and Emily's chest ached at the vulnerability in it. She stepped closer, her hand resting on Sam's arm. You've got more than you think, she said, her voice fierce. I see it. Every day. Sam's eyes softened, and she pulled Emily into a hug, her arms strong and warm. You make me want to believe that, she whispered, her breath warm against Emily's ear. Days turned into weeks, the road blurring into a rhythm of shared glances and quiet confessions. They returned to Oregon, to Emily's small apartment, the air thick with the scent of her old life books, lavender candles, the faint trace of Claire's perfume. But Sam was there, her presence a new kind of home. They cooked dinner together, the sizzle of onions and the clink of wine glasses filling the space. They laughed, they argued, they kissed until the world felt small and safe. One night, under a sky heavy with stars, Sam took Emily's hand. Marry me, she said, her voice raw, her eyes burning with certainty. Not because of what happened before, but because I want to build something with you. Something real. Emily's breath caught, tears spilling down her cheeks. She thought of the church, the empty aisle, the pain that had led her here. And she thought of Sam, the woman who'd driven her out of the wreckage, who'd shown her love wasn't a destination but a journey. Yes, she whispered, her voice trembling with joy. Yes. They married in a quiet ceremony, just them and a handful of friends, the ocean crashing in the distance. Emily wore a simple dress, Sam a tailored suit, her CEO confidence softened by the daisy tucked in her pocket. The air smelled of salt and hope, the vows they exchanged carrying the weight of every mile they'd traveled together. Years later, Emily stood in their shared home, a cozy house on the Oregon coast. The walls were lined with photos, Sam and Emily laughing on the road, Sam in a boardroom, Emily with her students. Cartertech had grown, but Sam had found balance, stepping into her role with a new kind of strength, one Emily had helped her find. They'd built a life, not perfect but real, each day a testament to the love they'd chosen. Emily traced a finger over the jade pendant on her nightstand, a smile tugging at her lips. She'd been left at the altar, but she'd found something better. A partner, a home, a road worth traveling. And as Sam's arms wrapped around her from behind, the scent of cedar grounding her, Emily knew she'd never been lost. She'd